morning, everybody that's joining. I am just getting my coffee and my dog together so that I can sit and we can finish this tote today. For those of you that joined me yesterday, at the end of the video, I speculated how I might want to do the rest of the video. Or should I say the rest of the round bag and candles. And then once I sat down and looked at it, I kind of changed my mind. So, for those of you that are going to go back and watch part 3 of the video, I put a note on the thumbnail for the video to please read the notes in the description to just end where I ended at that point, and then would pick up today. I hope nobody, it's not that big of a difference. It's just a little bit of a difference. I really apologize if anybody did it that way. You can still do it that way. You can just add more rounds to it. So yeah. And like I tell everybody, not quite studio quality, real life for me. And most of the projects that I do, I freehand while we're going along, so that I can kind of show you my thought process and how I would freehand things and customize things to the way that I want them if I'm reading another pattern and want to do something a little bit differently. So, on that note, I think I have everything that I need. And the videos that I upload as lives, or the videos that I do as lives in the mornings, like this one, that are tutorials, I do go back and upload them to YouTube. So usually by late afternoon they are uploaded to YouTube, and that is my channel, and that is the playlist that you can find them on. Add a little light. I have my coffee, as well as my Nomi has his coffee. And I'm ready to go. Are you guys ready to go? So, it's my beads. This was the last tutorial I did last week. It was the shrug. And that shrug, I pretty much, same thing. Free-handed, I showed you how you would use different stitches if you wanted to use different stitches and use a different construction. I showed you different ways to do the sleeves. I showed different ways to end the sleeves, if you wanted just a straight sleeve, or if you wanted to cuff on your sleeve. I showed a couple different ways to do the cuffs. I also showed how you would increase if you wanted to do the fluted sleeves. And of course I had to go up and make myself happy and add some beads to the end of my sleeves there. So that was last week's tutorial. And all of those tutorials are up on my YouTube channel and playlist there. It might not be free to subscribe here on TikTok, but it is free to subscribe on YouTube. All right. I'm going to wait till a few more people join me. Hi, guys. Hi, everybody that's joining. I have to apologize because I have to look through my bifocals to read the comments there. Oh, hello, Cindy. Good morning. I'm coming right back. My allergies are getting me this morning. But I don't know if you heard me, sorry, say that I know the end of the last video I speculated how I was going to do the next 2 rows of the bag. Well, I changed my mind. So I hope you didn't do those. I hope you didn't continue beyond the rows that we did yesterday, because I'll feel really bad. But to be honest with you, you could just add a couple more rows to cinch it up a little bit tighter. I'm just going to make it so we do less rows and still cinch it up a little bit tighter. And my beads are going to clack on everything that I... Still not quite warm enough today. It's supposed to go up to almost 80 here, which is going to be... I love it. 80 is perfect for me. but it's not quite there yet. It's still maybe about 50, 55, maybe getting close to 60, but by the time I'm done, and I thought I was going to have to leave early today, but I don't. Bonus. Because my daughter wasn't going to school, and my husband said, I'll just come pick my son up and take him to work, so you don't have to worry about leaving early. And I was like, oh, thanks. I appreciate that. And how exciting is this? The granny tote that I sold last week, one that looked just like that, the lady was kind enough to leave an awesome review for me on my shop, my Etsy shop. So I was very excited about that. Good morning, Karen. Good morning, everybody. Oh, I know, I was so excited I sent a screenshot to my husband. I'm like, oh my God, look. Oh, crazy dog. I think I get him settled, and then he's not. And I'm going to let him out, give him his bone, and then I'm going to jump right into what we're doing today so we can finish this bag, because tomorrow I'd like to go over how, if you look at the, are you coming out? If you look at the thumbnail that I have on my YouTube tutorial, the market bag that I have pictured actually has a little change purse with crocheted with the same yarn attached to it. And I was just going to go over how to do that. So that's what I was going to do tomorrow if we get our bag finished today. Okay. Hey, Michelle. All right, I have everybody joining me. That right there is the French market tote I'm working on today. I don't know. These chairs, I like these chairs. They look good in my living room, but they're not all that comfortable. All right. So, I am still working with my, I might be able to work with these sleeves. I might not. I might have to take them off. I'm still working with my 4.5 millimeter hook. Probably can't see that. Maybe. I don't know why when I put things in front of my mouth it finally focuses, but okay. So I'm still using the 4.5 millimeter hook because I want it to be just a little bit tighter, my tension around the sides and around the handles. So yesterday we finished the first 2 rows around the handles. So we had 2 rows around the handle and 2 rows all the way around the side of the bag, up through the other handle, and then 2 rows down the other side. And again, I marked the in-between, or I left the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stitches in between my stitch markers that we worked up the side of the top and bottom. Just to kind of keep my space there. So this is my, this will be our next row, because I think on this one I did 4 rows. I'm pretty sure that's what I did. Again, that's most of the stuff that I do is free-handed, so, and that's kind of the whole purpose of my videos, is teaching you how to like look at things and go, oh, maybe I want to do this instead. So when I did a row the way I had initially told you, the next row the way I initially told you I was going to do it yesterday, it was just did not cinch it up the way I wanted it cinched up. So I'm actually going to do my decreases all the way across, but I'm going to decrease by 3. So I'm going to single crochet 3 stitches together all the way across this edge. So this was our starting point. This was our starting point, and I'm going to leave that in my first stitch. And I also want to note that when you would typically do a single crochet together, you would pull up your loop, and then pull all 3 of those loops together to make it a little bit tighter. And I'm doing my single crochet 3s just a little bit different because the bag is meshy to begin with. So if I pull up my loop, pull up my loop, pull up my third loop, and then I go through those 3 loops and then through that loop, it makes the stitch a little bit taller so that even though I'm cinching it, it doesn't pucker quite as much. And the bigger stitch that's left here, the bigger hole, the stitch that's left there, kind of blends in with the mesh. So that's why if any of you guys have noticed, good morning Tammy, that's why if any of you guys have noticed, I've been doing my decreases a little bit differently. I've been showing you how to do them a little bit differently on this piece here. So that's what we're going to do. So this was where we left off. This is where we're going to start. And again, you just have to be careful because you see where you put that third stitch. You put that third stitch into here. You don't want to mistake that for an empty stitch. You want to go to the next empty stitch to do your next set of decreases. So again, we're not doing what I thought I was going to do. Instead, we're going to do 3 single crochets together all the way around the side, all the way across the side to the next stitch marker. And again, I'm doing my single crochets for any of you guys that noticed. I'm doing my single crochet together a little bit differently because that's how I like the aesthetic of this bag. So I'm pulling through those 3 loops and then I'm pulling it together. And yes, I know it gives it a big loop there, but that doesn't, it helps it from puckering too much since you're cinching it so tight. And the aesthetic will kind of keep with the fact that you've got holes throughout the whole bag, if that makes sense. So again, you can see where that last stitch went into. You want to make sure you skip that last stitch that it went into and you go to the next stitch. And again, I'm going to do 1, and I did go over this with the tops and bottom parts of it. I'm going to pull up my 3 loops for my 3 different stitches. I'm going to pull through those 3 loops, and then I'm going to close my single crochet. So again, and I know you're looking at it backwards, but that's okay because you can still kind of see. So you're going to skip, I'll turn it around. So you can see where the last stitch is in this stitch, right? Because it's a little bit different color. So you can see that that's stitch. It kind of pulls the stitch open a little bit, so don't mistake it for an empty stitch. Make sure you go to the next stitch to start your next set of 3 single crochets together. So again, I'll pull up first stitch, second stitch, third stitch, pull through those 3 stitches, and then close my single crochet. Cut my end off there. I stitched over that end there, but it's just going to get in the way if you're looking at it. So again, if you look, show this one more time, you can see where this last stitch goes into here, but it looks like an open stitch. It's not, because your last stitch is in there, it's just pulling it over. So you make sure you go to the next stitch to start your single crochet 3 together. And again, I'm pulling up 3 loops from 3 different stitches, pulling through those 3 loops, and then pulling them all together. So you can see where that stitch is the 3rd stitch. Where it goes into the 3rd stitch, I'm going to go into 1, 2, 3, pull up 1, pull up in the next one, pull up in the 3rd one. That's over 3 stitches. And then I'm going to pull through those 3 loops, and then I'm going to close my single crochet. So don't worry that your stitches look that big, because they're going to be cinched together even more when you work even stitches across them. They're going to pull together. So I'm going to keep working that from this bobby pin on this side, from that stitch marker on that side, all the way across to the first stitch marker on this side. So I'm going to work all the way across to here. and I'm just going to do that 3 single crochets together. How was everybody's evening? I know some of you guys jumped on, some of you guys jump on in the mornings. Some of you guys watched me when I came back. Wasn't Moonsilk sweet? She was such a sweet lady. Is that like not the most amazing thing that I can sit here a half a world away and teach somebody how to crochet? That is so amazing to me. What's even more amazing to me, I think, is that like people... Good morning, Janie. What's even more amazing to me is that people want to learn from me. Like I never in my life thought. Janie, you're just jumping on. I was going to tell you I have a note in the last tutorial where I speculated how I was going to do the next 2 rounds of the bag, and I changed my mind. So end the bag where we ended it. Ignore what I speculated. And then today we are doing single crochet 3 together all the way across that edge. So all the way across that first edge where we left off, we're doing single crochet 3 together. And I had explained that, again, you know, make sure you skip that first stitch that it's in. Typically you would do, and I thought of this last night after I was doing these, typically you would do a single crochet decrease where you would pull up all your loops and then you would pull your stitch through all of your loops. And that's not what I'm doing with this bag. With this bag I'm doing the stitch a little bit differently, but I did show you that on the when we did the tops and the bottoms. I'm pulling out my loops from my 3 stitches that I want to gather, and then I'm going through those 3 stitches, and then I'm closing my chain. So it does make it a little bit bigger. The stitches look like they're too wide, but that's okay because, like I said, the aesthetic of the bag is that it's mesh, so those wide stitches are going to be okay. And when you do an even number of stitches across these, because your stitches are normally going to be tighter if they're not decreasing, it's going to pull together. So you can see your stitches are tighter if you're not decreasing. So don't worry about those gaps in there because they're going to pull together with the next one. Oh, good morning, my other Cindy. Oh, thank you so much, Janie. That was amazing. You're a great instructor. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Okay, thanks. I'm not that far yet. I'll watch videos to finish. Perfect. But yeah, I did put a big note on that thumbnail, so when you pull up that video, it says, you know, please read the note in the description before you go to this 4th part of the video. So again, I am just now working my 3 single crochets together. Again, a little bit differently than I would normally do single crochet together or decrease. I'm pulling through those first 3 loops first, and then I'm pulling through my loop last. I'm making sure I skip the one that I went into last, which is easy to see here because the yarn is ombre, but it does, when you're looking at it, look like it's an empty stitch, but it's not actually an empty stitch. So make sure you go to the next one, and then you're just going to do the same thing. Pull up 1 loop from the next 3 stitches each, pull through those 3 loops, and then close that stitch. And you're just going to work all the way down that side of the bag to the next stitch marker before the handle. So I'm going to do that now, because if I keep yakking away and re-explaining the same things, I'll never accomplish what I want to accomplish today. And I am just going to work all the way down that bag, that side. Tilt my camera a little bit so you guys can see me crochet. And you notice I'm giving you very little counts. So like I'm not going to go back and count these stitches because it looks right to me. And that's kind of, again, what I'm trying to teach you. Like sometimes counts make a difference, and sometimes when you're doing something like this, the counts really aren't going to make a difference as long as you get the stitches together, because missing one or two stitches in something like this is relatively insignificant. There are some things that it's important to count your stitches in your rounds. This is not the only thing we count in this round. Is to make sure it's even. It are the stitches right along the side of the top here and the stitches around the handle. They were the only stitches we counted. No, you got your bone. Go lay down. Go lay down. This was last week's tutorial on shrug. So I'm going to just keep going around, across, I should say, until I get to that handle. I swear this dog is going to make me psycho. Almost there. Almost there. So that was my last set of 3. And this is actually the last stitch on the side. So I'm just going to put one stitch there. Whoops. See, I almost did it. See how it pulls over? I almost used that as my stitch, but it's actually the next stitch. And then I'm going to put my stitch marker back in there, because then I should know I have 9 stitches before I get to that anchor stitch at my side there. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so I'm at all the way up to the very top again, where I have the anchor stitch before my 75 stitches. So once again, I'm going to take in this slip stitch that's an anchor stitch, and I'm going to slip stitch again. So this stitch here right before is always going to be a slip stitch as well. And it might be a little bit tight, but that's okay. Just pull it through and make it a slip stitch. And then I am going to put my stitch marker back. Okay, so now when we're working up the handles this time, and I am going to show you because I'm going to twist them this way towards me. So you can see, because of the different colors in the ombre yarn, the first set of chain stitches we did were with the light pink. When we made our way around, the second set of stitches were with the dark pink. I'm going to turn that towards me so that I'm actually working in between the one stitch, in between the one strand of the top layer and the one strand, or 2 strands, it doesn't really matter as long as it's thick, whichever way goes in easier, of the first stitch, and then I'm going to go to the next stitch and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to work in here and down through here, go to the next stitch and work in here and down through there. So you're kind of working on the side. Does that make sense? Good morning, Patty. So I will do a couple. So and like I said, this will start getting tight because there's slip stitches. But that's okay because that's how we want it. So I'm actually going to go down through those 2 stitches so you can see how I've grabbed in the middle of, you can see how I've grabbed in the middle of the slip stitch there and down through the middle of the slip stitch on the bottom. So I'm kind of working on the side. Does that make sense? I'll show it again. And I am going to work a slip stitch. So I've done my first slip stitch. It's a little bit finicky to show you. So I've done my first slip stitch. My next slip stitch again is going to be in the next stitch, and I'm going to go down through the center of the stitch and down through the center of the stitch on the bottom as well. And then I'm going to yarn over and pull up, and that's the slip stitch I'm going to make. Can you guys see that okay? So I've made 2 slip stitches. Here's my 3rd stitch that I'm going to work into. And I'm going to put my hook right into the center of that and right through the bottom of it. So right through the top stitch and through the bottom stitch. So you can see I've caught the top stitch and the bottom stitch. Pull that up a little bit. You can see I've caught the top stitch and the bottom stitch. And then I'm going to pull my slip stitch right through there. So now I have 3 slip stitches that I've done through there. And you see it just kind of keeps making a sandwich. So I'm going to go to the next one. And again, I'm going to put it directly into the center of that stitch. And I'm just going to push my way. I'm going to put it directly into the center of my stitch. And I'm going to push my way straight through the bottom of, through the light pink part too. So it goes all the way through the center of which you've already done. You can see both strands are there. So if you look from both sides, I have both strands on that side. I have both strands on this side because I put it directly in the center of those slip stitches, and then I'm going to pull my next slip stitch out. All right, makes sense? Are we all on the same page so far? Where's my girls? Are we all on the same page so far? Yes. What are you making? Grammy Sims, we are making the French market tote. Here that you see in the back. And if you can see, it's got the large handles. It's almost like a big mesh beach bag. That is what I am making today. And then this is like part 4 of the tutorial. Most of my tutorials are me sitting here deciding to like freehand something, and I go through my thought process and I teach you how to think about that and put the things together. Thank you very much. Put the things together and how to sequence your stitches and make them work for you, as well as the sizes and the different things that you're making. So I kind of like talk through my thought process when I'm doing things so that you can see how I'm making them. So I come on every morning. Oh, that's okay. Oh, I understand, Patty. So I come on every morning around 9:45, so around this time, it's about 10:07 now, and I, for about an hour, sometimes an hour and a half, I sit here and I do some sort of tutorial, and then when I'm done with that part of the tutorial, I go back and I upload it to YouTube. So if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, that's my channel and that's the playlist. I have them, all the tutorials listed as a podcast under NiftyKnotz Talk, so that you can go back, rewatch them, slow down if you need to slow down, go back and forth if you understand something and want to skip ahead, or if you want to see something again, you can replay it. I've done plushies so far. We've done the granny square bags so far. I showed how to make your motifs kind of pop off your granny squares. So if you look at that one, like the skull looks like it's popping off the granny square, but it's actually part of the granny square. It's just the way that I manipulate the stitches to get it to look nice and flat and crisp around the edges. The bunny is the same way. If you can see it, the bunny is the same way. And I also go through with those tutorials how you can adjust your stitches, so you can make your stitches so you have a tilted granny square, or so that you have a square granny square. And I've got a bunch of them there. They were my obsession. They're still my obsession. I still have another pile of squares here that I'm working on. But that's a tutorial. One of the other tutorials are how I do the stitching to put them together, and how you would lay them out to put them together. And then I do tutorials on how to do the handles and how to do the braiding, like the rickrack that's up the handles. So those are also tutorials. Last week's tutorial was the shrug that I did, and that was this, which is basically a scarf with the ends stitched up like sleeves. And I can put it on easily because I actually have my tank top on today because it's going to be decent weather. But so you basically put your sleeves on, and your scarf part goes up over your head there, and it just fits like a short sweater, which just comes over your shoulders, which is why they call it a shrug. And that tutorial I went over how to make your straight sleeves, how to put cuffs on your sleeves, or how to do the fluted sleeves. And then I showed you that I had to, of course, have to be a little bit extra there. I added beads to the end of my sleeves. Showed you some finishing stitches that you can use for other projects if you want as well. But those are some of the tutorials I have that are already uploaded to YouTube. In the evenings I sit and just kind of work on other stuff and chatter away with the girls that come on, that I've absolutely come to love. I really truly have. But again, I am just going through this up and around this entire handle, just slip stitching again through the handle. I'm going to do that all the way around the handle. Again, you want to make sure that I'm in Ohio. We are making the French market tote that's behind me there. And so far, this is how far we've gotten. So we're getting there. The rest of the tutorials that I've done in the beginning of the week are uploaded to YouTube. So when I'm done with this tutorial, I'll upload this one to YouTube as well, so that you can either follow along or you can skip through to the parts that you really wanted to see. What else? Oh, I know what I was saying. Just make sure, just like I said with the other time that we went around the handles with a slip stitch, make sure your slip stitches and your stitches stay about the same size as the stitches that you did previously so that it doesn't curl. And a good way to do that is when you pull it through, drop it and pull it up a little bit, and it'll kind of give you the same height. So when you put your stitch through and you pull it through, if you kind of drop it, it'll give you the same height. Or pull it down, because you can put them through, pull it up, and then kind of pull it down so that you get the same height for the stitch. Because if you don't, it'll curl and it'll look funny. You want your slip stitches to be nice and straight and even. I know a bunch of you guys are from Michigan. And I think, oh my God, don't hate me. I'm not a sports fan, but I have, my uncle went to Ohio State. And he's like, you do realize they're the enemy. I'm like, what are you talking about? California here. Oh, cool, Michelle. My in-laws and my sister-in-law actually live in California. My in-laws just recently moved. My mother-in-law's thinking about coming back for the summer because she's not so sure she wants to be in that kind of heat. Be the crochet capital. Yeah, and I'm here in the middle of like nowhere, anything. You see, I made the stitches a little bit too big. So I think I'm actually going to pull them out so they look a little bit more even. You'll tell if you get your stitches too big or too small, because you'll see that it starts to pull. Like you can see it was it's nice and even there, and where I just showed you where I did those was a little bit too big. So you want to make sure you keep your slip stitches as even as you can to the stitches that are on the previous row. And I'm almost around here. I keep splitting that yarn. There we go. I'm getting there. And then I'm going to work down the other side, and I'll show you how I did that again. And then I'm going to work up and around the other handle. And then I think I only have one more round that I do. Maybe two. I'm going to say the last one's probably optional. Almost there. How many projects can you do in a week's time? I have tried an I-cord, but since I'm crocheting just up and around and I want the handles to be attached so the bag stays strong, I'm just doing my slip stitch in my slip stitch. Depending on the project that I'm doing, sometimes I will use an I-cord, but this project here, I actually want the handles attached to the side of my bag and anchored to it so that it doesn't pull off. So I like to do this is how I like to do it. And yes, it ends up looking like an I-cord because they're all slip stitches on top of slip stitches, but it's actually anchored to the sides of the bag. So I'm actually working the handles in like a big circle. I'm working down one side, down the whole side of the bag, up the other side of the handle, down the other side of the handle, down the other side of the bag, up the other side of the handle. So it's all like really secure. I do just two more rows. Yeah, about that. If you weren't here when I said at the end of the we did 2 single crochets and a decrease down the first side, and then I was speculating how I was going to finish that. Forget that speculation and just jump into this tutorial, because instead of doing what I speculated, which was 1 and then a decrease, I just decided to do 3 decreases at a time, so we weren't going around a million times to do these handles, which is what it looked like I did on that one. So after I did the first two rows that I did a single crochet 3 together for the third round around there. So it pulls a little bit tighter. And those gaps and those loops there are going to be okay. Those gaps in between your single crochet 3s together are going to be okay, because when you the next round around, you're actually just going to put 1 stitch in each one, and it's going to pull it just a little bit closer. And I think I did put a note on yesterday's upload that I uploaded for what I did. I did put a note on the thumbnail that says please read the note before watching this tutorial, and the note explains that the speculation that I did was not actually how I continued in the next video. So I hope that helps, but so far that little bit of unevenness is okay, as long as it wasn't like really super bumpy like it was the last time. Good morning, everybody that's joining me. I'm still working on doing these slip stitches. It is kind of a pain in the butt to do your slip stitches like this instead of an I-cord. I mean, it's 6 1/2 dozen of another, I guess. But it does make a sturdier handle, especially for this bag that can hold a lot of items and a lot of weight. For those of you that are just joining us and seeing this bag for the first time, you don't realize that the panel that we made was like ginormous. This was, I mean, you can kind of get the gist because we haven't pulled it together, but the panel that we made for this is like enormous. So, never seen it done that way. Great idea. Thank you very much. You're so helpful. Thank you, Cindy. I just like it this way for the market totes because I don't want the handle super thick. I just think it looks nicer with a thinner handle. Whereas like with the tote bags, the thicker handle looked right. With the tote bags, the thicker handle looked right. You can see that. But with this bag, I just felt that the thinner handle looked better, but I still wanted to make it as strong as I possibly could. And that's how I did it. So this handle is actually attached to all the sides of the bag as well. It's just done all the way around the sides of the bag. So you're getting that support all the way around the sides. So I've worked my way all the way down to the last stitch here. And like I said, these last stitches and that anchor stitch might be a little bit tight, and that's okay. That's kind of the way we want them. So I'm down to the last marked stitch here, which is the slip stitch that I did across the top stitch here. And I am just going to slip stitch right into that stitch as well. So I'm going to take my stitch marker out, and I'm going to slip stitch into that stitch. Again, if it's tight, that's fine. I'm going to remark that last slip stitch that we did on that anchor stitch, and I know now that I should have 9 stitches in between my 2 markers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I have my 9 stitches from up the side there, marked in between my markers, and I'm just going to do my single crochets down them. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is the first marked stitch of the side, and I'm going to put 1 single crochet in that first marked stitch to the second side. I'm going to remark that stitch just so I can keep track of things. Remark that stitch, and then I'm going to continue down the second side doing the same thing, working my 3 single crochets together. For those of you that are just jumping in, the 3 single crochets together, I do them a little bit differently than a normal decrease. A normal decrease, you would pull up your loop, pull up your loop, pull up your loop in your third one, and then you would slide it through all 3. With this bag, I like to do it a little bit less of a cinch because that tends to be really tight. So I pull up my loop in my first one, I pull up my loop in my second one, I pull up my loop in my third one, I draw through the 3 loops first, and then I draw through to close my single crochet. And again, that hole that you see there, because it's going to make it big and almost triangle looking, is going to be okay because it's going to like flow with the aesthetic of the meshy bag to begin with. And it's not going to cinch it quite as tight just yet, but we'll get the stitch count we want. And then again, when you're looking, it's easy to look at this and think that this is an empty stitch, but this is actually where your last loop went out of, so you want to make sure you go to the next stitch so that you're not going into that stitch one more time. You want to make sure you're getting the next stitch. And you're just going to go all the way across that way, doing 3 together that way. Pull up your 3 loops together and close it. Make sure you skip that last stitch there where you've got your last loop, and you're going to pull up your 1 loop, next stitch pull up a loop, next stitch pull up a loop. You're going to go through those 3 stitches, and then you're going to pull that closed, and you're not going to worry about the gap. You're going to make sure you skip that last stitch you went into and into the next stitch. Same thing, pull up your loop, next stitch pull up a loop, third stitch pull up a loop, through those 3 loops you pulled through, close off your single crochet and not worry about that gap. So that's how you're going to work the rest of the way down the side of that bag. And now we really decreased, so the next time we go around this bag it'll be a little bit quicker. And like I had said earlier, my husband told me not to worry about taking my son to work. He would come home and do that for me so that I didn't have to jump off early. So I can actually finish this. And if you've looked at the thumbnails for this on YouTube, you will see that the bag that I have as my thumbnail actually has like a little change purse that I had looped around the handles. So if I can get this done today with you guys, which I should be able to, we'll do that little change purse, which is just simple. Oh, that was the other tutorial we did. The other tutorial I did were the dice bags, the little fish trinket bags. And I would say, I don't know how many of you guys heard me, but the lady that bought one of my granny totes with the skulls on it left me this fantastic review. It was so cute. I don't know if I can read it while you guys listen to me. Let me see if I can Nope, lost you. You couldn't even hear me. Oh, you couldn't even hear me? Oh, well, that's a shame. Maybe I'll post... Oh, okay. So, I'll post it as a video because I'm really excited. I took the screenshot and I sent it to my husband. I'm like, oh my God, look how sweet. And I asked her if I could use her review on my site, so she told me to wait because she was going to put pictures, add pictures to it when she got home. See, I don't have another tablet or another phone that I can like read that review off of while I'm looking at you guys. We were on pause. Okay. If any of my kids were up, I would pull it up on their phones, but I don't have like a second tablet or phone or anything. And I'm not dragging my monster of a laptop out here to read it, but I'll do a video where I'll post the review on TikTok. That way you guys can all see it. But I was so excited. I was glad she liked it. And I was glad she left me a review to let me know she liked it. It made me happy because you guys that are all here know that that's like one of my favorite bags. A little bit more than halfway done. It's a great bag. Yeah, I love those tote bags. But then again, like you guys all hear me say all the time, I'm such a bag lady. I love a good bag. I really, really do. And I love making bags. So when I make the bags, I try to make them as good as I can, as sturdy as I can, as pretty as I can. Because I love my bags. You deserve it. You do such an amazing teacher to us. Oh, thank you so much. I love the skulls, but the bunnies are great too. Yeah, you know what? Skulls aren't for everybody, but I do know that they sell. So I make them. And sometimes I'll wear skulls. Depends on my mood. But I do like the bunnies too. The bunnies were in my stack of ones that need to be lined. But if you guys can see those are my bunnies. Hippity hop. And that tutorial is on my website. If you're looking for patterns or things that I tell you are from somebody else, my daughter is a skull freak. I'm not a skull freak, but occasionally I like them. Like I made myself a hat with like the ear flaps that have like skulls around it that I actually knitted. Oh, I'll show you the lining. I'll show you the lining, but I don't have a lining video. I just kind of explained to you how I did it. But I made the skull that has like the skulls knitted around it, and they have little pink bows on them. But, so the linings from that bag, I know I get off topic. They said you get real. So that's how I do my granny squares so that like the motifs kind of pop off. And honestly, I just put my bag out and I trace up to here. So I trace here, here, and I trace down to here. And I just make 2 panels like that I trace. And then I hem the tops of it. And where it's going to be stitched on, I hem those. And then the same thing, this is like a 1-inch piece of bias tape. I ran, see that hat too? Oh, I'll have to dig it out. I think it's in my bag of hats on top of my cupboard. You guys were here yesterday. You know how that turned out, me looking for the bucket bag. And then I do the same thing with my straps. I have like a little bias tape folder. So I just run my cotton through that bias tape maker and iron it, and then I do the same thing. I put like a top stitch, and then if you can see, I'll get a spot. I actually sew on my machine. That's not a good place. There's a good place. I actually sew on my machine with transparent thread. I actually sew the lining in so that it's a little bit tougher. And no, I put it together and then I line it. So I put it together and then I lay it flat. I lay it flat on my table. And then I trace up and around the point part. And then I stitch my handles on. So I stitch my handles on, and the handles come down to about here maybe. So I stitch my handles on, and then after I've hemmed my bag, hemmed around the top of the lining of my bag, then I fit it in my bag and turn it inside out and then stitch it around the bags and right over top of the handles, so everything's kind of attached. You do have to put your magnetic closures on first, and you do have to put your zipper pockets in before you stitch it to your lining though. But I've got my giant zipper pocket there, and I don't typically do two big pockets there. I don't typically do sewing tutorials because yes, you can. Sewing is not, like, crocheting to me is like my first language. Crocheting, yeah, is like my first language. And you can see how I have a nice crisp edge around that. And if I show you this one, it's not lined. You can see from the inside of it, that's the inside of it, it's the outside of it. You can see that that skull is actually part of the granny square. It's not stitched on like an applique. Yes, it is. I love it and I hate it. It's Coats & Clark transparent, and it is 100% polyester. So if you see transparent thread that says it's acrylic, the polyester threads will hold up to higher heat than the acrylic threads will. So if you're going to buy transparent thread to do your stitching, there you go. If you're going to buy transparent thread to do your stitching and stitch your linings in, yeah, that's me. I try to avoid it when I can, but I like to make bags, so then I have to force myself to line them. That's why I don't do tutorials, because it's more of me like cussing and trying things than it is actually sitting here and accomplishing a project. And again, 100% polyester. So that's what that is. And I just bought it at Joann's. And you can see it's like just like a monofilament, almost like fishing line. And it acts almost like fishing line, so sometimes it can be a pain to work with. But I like the result. So I take my time and I use it anyway. Long ago. I haven't sewn for years and years. I used to sew when my kids were young long ago. Yeah, I did a lot of sewing when my kids were younger because I would make Halloween costumes every year. And I have 5 kids, so. And I learned to sew. My mother was a seamstress for a dress shop when I was growing up, when I was younger, like little. And I have to put up there. My husband wants to make sure everybody sees. He supports me. I do love it. Oh yeah, I say very ugly words when I sew. As a matter of fact, this last couple of batches ago that I work on this, I'll talk while I'm finishing this up here. The last couple of batches, I thought to myself, oh, I bought a double needle and thought, well, maybe I'll do some like embroidery stitches as like my top stitches. It broke my machine. So what's even funnier is I did a TikTok video on it, and then I posted it to like, you know, just to be silly, and then I posted it to Facebook and Instagram because a lot of my family uses Facebook and Instagram. My husband had already said, come on, go out and get a decent one, because the one I had was used. It was passed down to me, so it was old to begin with, and it probably just needs serviced. But he's like, I'm tired of listening to the words. He's like, he doesn't care about the words. You said thread for the bottom. Yes, I use the thread for the bobbin as well. So I thread my bobbin with it, and you kind of have to almost like put a piece of tape to hold it there while if you use it, you'll see what I mean. It like boings like fishing line, so you kind of have to be, it's a little bit finicky. Then he took me out like that evening and said, just pick out another sewing machine. So the one that I bought was still a Singer, but it was it's a heavy duty one. So it's meant to go through the denim and things that I like to sew. So I've been very happy with that. And then, of course, my mother-in-law saw the video, and because of the time difference, of course, she saw the video later on that evening, and she called me right up. Like, she doesn't usually call me, but she called me right up. Yeah, you know what, and I was really glad I did. And I was glad about the heavy-duty one. But you use other linings too. Depends on what bag I'm lining. I have cross-stitch body bags that I use, and I usually use cotton to line all my bags. So I'll show you a couple of the bags here that I have lined. My husband's used to coming home and seeing my bins. I'm so bad with like putting things away. They sit in my bins and sit out here forever. Okay, so here's a couple of the other bags that I lined, that I did. I don't have tutorials for these bags, but sorry. Use invisible tape. The majority of my bags I just line with denim, because denim to me is going to be the most durable for a lining for a bag. So like to throw your cell phone, your wallet, whatever. And these do have a pocket in them for your cell phone. And these actually also have a little zipper pocket in them. And of course, because I can't stand having to dig for my keys. So these are also lined with denim. And you see, you can't really tell. And the denim does make them a little bit sturdier. So I have these lined with denim as well. And I did that the same way. I just cut my piece and hemmed my piece. I put a top stitch on just to make it look like it's something. And then you can see where I have very close to the top here, I machine stitched it on with the transparent thread. I also have it machine stitched on with a transparent thread right across here. And you can tell when you flip the bag over, if you use like like a top stitch length, you don't even see where that transparent thread comes through on the top of your bag. You don't, because it doesn't pull the stitches down tight enough that it interrupts them. These I did the same thing with. So my fish bags I did the same thing with. I lined them again with denim. These don't have a zipper pocket, but they do have a pocket. They do have a pocket, and they do have a clip in them, but they don't have a zipper pocket in them. And these are drawstrings that you can carry as a drawstring or you can carry as a crossbody bag. So I usually, thank you. So I usually line them all with the same thing. This past trip that I made, I actually, to Joann's to buy denim, I thought, this is ridiculous. Denim is like $20 a yard, 15 when it's on sale. I'm just going to work my 9 stitches up here, and I'm going to work around this handle to the beginning the way I did the first handle while I talk. So the last time I went to Joann's, I had all intentions of buying the denim again, and I had a coupon, but it's so expensive. Even the lighter weight denim that I buy, like I don't buy a super thick weight denim. So I actually found this fabric, because as I was walking in, it's a cute bag. Love the colors. I love the stitch and color. Thank you very much. As I was walking into Joann's, I have this like epiphany, right? Hey, they used to have like walls of bolts that were like super discounted. So I went in and asked the lady, and she's like, yeah, they're called the mill ends. And she says, yes, we still have them. So I went over to their mill ends, and I found it looks like a light gray denim. It's almost like a lightweight canvas. And I thought, oh, this would work too. And I thought, well, I'll give it a try. It was $7 a yard. They had 4.5 yards left. I paid $15 by the time she was done with my discounts and my coupons. So I thought, you know, $15 for 4.5 yards, you can't beat that. And it says professional clean on it or whatever, but I did the same thing with my denim. I brought it home and I threw it in the washer, and then I threw it in the dryer on high heat, and then I do that again. I throw it in the washer a second time, and then throw it in the dryer on high heat a second time, just to make sure it's not going to shrink up when it's in my bags there. And it came out really nice. So I thought that's what I'm going to use for my next batch of bags that I line. So I have that washed and ready to go. I just have to convince myself it's time to stop making bags and it's time to start lining them before I'm way too overwhelmed. I think I have 5 of the granny totes that I have to line now, which is fine. It's not really, the more I have, the easier it actually is for me to line them, because if I sit and line one bag, I get frustrated. If I sit one day and cut all my pieces, sit the next day and hem all my pieces, sit the next day and put my zippers in, sit the next day, if I like chop it up like that, if I break it up a little bit, I don't get quite so frustrated with the sewing process. So I will have a stack of bags to line before I actually pull my sewing machine back out. But like, I went a little bit crazy this last time I had my sewing machine out. I made zipper pouches. I still have one sitting here. I had made little like triangle zipper pouches, pyramid pouches. I made some zipper bags. I made marble mazes that I saw here on TikTok somewhere, which was just basically 2 flat pieces of fabric together, and it had like a simple maze drawn on it, and you drop your marble in before you sew it shut, so you can kind of like a fidget toy, you can push your marble around the fabric. It was actually really cool. I made some of those. I made some just regular little coin purses. Like, I just went crazy, and then I thought, I need to sit and start crocheting some stuff. Well, I really don't. I have like bins full of stuff here, but that'll be that was after I finished lining the fish bags and finished lining my star stitch bags there. I just kept sewing things. And I did enjoy it. I just have to get in that mindset where I'm going to put this down for a couple hours a day and do that. But yeah, they're not very pretty words that come out of my mouth when I sew sometimes. Alright, I'm getting there. Honestly, for these last rounds, this is what takes the longest. But even if you made an I-cord, it would still take long. And this is just more secure to the bag than attaching an I-cord. I mean, I suppose you could just finish off the bag and put grommets up here and tie your I-cord through it. But I personally like it done this way. Just my preference again. If your preference is finishing the bag without the handles, just going back and forth, and putting grommets up here, you can do that too. But the grommets will stretch this part of the bag because they're not attached to the sides. But depending on what you're going to put in it, will depend on how much stretch it is going to have to begin with, or how much it will stretch to begin with. It seems like it takes forever to do these slip stitches, but it is worth it. I don't mind. I just mind that you guys are sitting there just kind of watching me, and I'm not entertaining you guys. But if you go back and watch the replays on YouTube, you can like fast forward through these parts. Alright, this is our third trip around the sides of this bag. I'm going to do one more trip around the sides of this bag. Call it finished, but I will show you how you can do one last one to do like a finishing edge. Almost just that much more. I like the way you're doing the handles, less likely for them to come off or pull away from the bag. Yes. Your handles make the bag so adorable and cute at the same time. Thank you. Cindy totally agrees. Thank you. Yeah, like I said, I'm such a bag lady. Like, I really want any bag that I make to be really decent and sturdy. I want them to be used because I like to use my bags. And if somebody buys one, I want them to like using them and not feel like they're not worth it or not feel like it's sturdy enough. Alright, so I'm back down to that anchor stitch where I have my stitch marker. And I'm just going to put another slip stitch right on top of there. Mark that slip stitch again, and then I should have my 9 stitches in between here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I'm back to the beginning to do the last round. Whoops. 8 and 9. Okay, so that's what it should look like at that point. And I think, yeah, I'm going to do 2 more rounds. I'm going to do 2 more rounds. Yeah, I think I am going to do 2 more rounds just to finish it off. Okay, so this next round, it shouldn't be too bad. Your dad's coming to get you.
Okay.
Good morning. Okay, so this next round, again in our first stitch, we're just going to single crochet. I'm going to put my stitch marker back. And over all the stitches that we gathered and did our single crochet 3s together, we're just going to put 1 single crochet in each one. And you'll see, because your single crochets, when you're not decreasing, are a little bit tighter, so it will cinch it up a little bit more. So you're just going to put 1 on each. I'll show you here after I get a few done. So you're just going to put 1 in each stitch. Okay, so you can see how you've got like the big loops and stitches there where we did our single crochet 3s together, and you can see when you do a regular single crochet over top of it, they're significantly smaller, so it does the rest of the cinching for the sides. So again, these were the single crochet 3s together that we did, and then when you just put a regular single crochet in it, you know, let the bag curl the way you would normally it would curl, and just do your regular size stitches. You can see they're significantly smaller. They don't have that big gap in it. So you're just going to keep working that 1 single crochet in each one all the way over to the next handle. When you get to the next handle, I'm going to show you what we're going to do with that anchor stitch, because we're going to do something just a little bit different with that anchor stitch this time. But you can see how much smaller 1 single crochet is considered to the bottom there, and then you would just go into the next one and single crochet as well, and you can see how it pulls them together a little bit, even a little bit more than they were pulled together to begin with. So I'm just going to keep doing that across. I think there's only about 30 stitches here. And then I'll hold it up and show you. You can see how it's pulling together on the sides, much more than it was pulled together on the sides on the other side. I know you probably can't. It's probably really difficult because I'm sitting close trying to show you the stitches. But I'm almost to the end there already. Thank you for all the likes. I appreciate it. And then I'm at my side here. I'm going to take out and do my last stitch. And I am still going to put that back in there. I'm going to do my 9 stitches up here. 2 up the side of the bag, the side of the top of the bag. I have a hair. Okay, it's not, since I am going to do one more row after this, that anchor stitch I'm just going to again do a single or do a slip stitch into. Make sure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so the next one would be my anchor stitch. I'm just going to do the slip stitch. I'm going to put that back in there. This time, when you go around, you're going to see it kind of has like 3 loops because we did 3 rounds. So you can kind of see, let me find a spot that's maybe this one. You can kind of see where we did our slip stitches. So you kind of have like 1, 2, 3 layers there and 3 layers there. You can go through all 3 layers if you want. But I am actually, for this layer around, just going to go into the top loop to do my slip stitches. So if you look, these are my slip stitches, and this was the last round of slip stitches that I did. Instead of going through 2 or 3 loops, when I do my set of slip stitches, I'm just going to go into the top loop. So you're looking at it like this to crochet. And I'm just going to go into this top loop here. This top loop here. This top loop here. This top loop here. You can see I'm not going into anything else other than that top loop. I'm not going through any other layers. I'm just going through that top loop that you're looking at. Just popping in for a minute. Hi, Liz. Good morning. So that's what I'm going to do for this round of slip stitches, which makes it a little bit quicker than having to poke it through both. And I'll show you why I'm doing that in a minute here. Because you're then going to actually take this together and pull like a cord when you do your next. If I did it right, which yes, I did. Try to do this set as quickly as I can. I'm going to do this set as quickly as I can, and instead of going all the way around and finishing, I am going to pick up the end of my thread, and I'm going to start again so I can show you the very last row of this. Does that work? I know, 75 stitches is a lot of stitches. Again, you can make your handle shorter if you want, as long as it fits around your arm. As long as it fits around your arm without pulling too much, because it's not really going to stretch that much, so you don't want it to stretch too much. And that is simply because the bottom of the bag is going to give you enough stretch. when you fill it. With either your groceries or your beach gear or your craft gear. If you're going to put your craft gear in here, I would definitely put your little pieces. I like the drape I have. The drape I have? What, behind me? Or you mean the drape or the handle? The bag over. Oh, the way the handle goes over? Is that what you meant? The handle. Yeah. So it's just kind of wide enough, and it's up high enough so that when the rest of the bag stretches, it's not going to stretch down too far, because this bag will stretch a lot. Not the top part of the bag and the handles, that's why we're doing it tight. But the bottom part, if you've followed along with the first couple of tutorials, you realize how large this panel that we work as our bag, like this panel here, is huge. It's 34 squares by 34 squares, and it's all treble crochet and chain 3. So it will stretch to accommodate a lot. Which is why I want my handles nice and tight and the top part of my bag nice and tight and anchored, so that the top part of the bag stays, so that when you stretch out the bottom of the bag to fill it, which is kind of what you want to do with a market bag, is you want to be able to shove it full of things. And alright, I'm almost done to this stitch. And there's my anchor stitch, and I'm going to take my anchor stitch and I'm going to put a slip stitch in the top of that slip stitch. And I'm going to mark that stitch off. And then we are going to pretend, just for shits and giggles, that I have now crocheted all the way around this with my single crochet, and that I have gone all the way up here with my slip stitches, and I've already come all the way down here with my slip stitches, and I've gone down my side again. So that's what we're going to pretend I did. Is that cool with everybody? Does that work? So I can go over the last row of this. I like the bag so I can fill it up. Oh, you'll be able to fill it up. Okay, so now we're back down to where we started, and I'm going to use a different color just because it's what I have available, and it might, okay, perfect, thank you, Tammy. I'm going to use a different color just so that you can kind of see when I'm doing the finish up for this. It'll be a little, for the handle part of it, it'll be a little bit easier for you to see. So now we made our way down here, and this time we're just going to slip stitch in the first slip stitch, and of course you wouldn't have this tail, because you're going to just you're just going to continue around. So I am actually going to just continue around with a slip stitch this time instead of a single crochet, which is going to hold the sides of the bag tighter. And you're not going to see that because it's going to be the same color. You will see this on the top, which will make it look like a finished edge on the top. Just make it look a little bit, so it'll look like this on the outside. It'll look like a finished edge on the top, and we're not going to worry about the inside because it's the same color, so you're not going to see that running line there. So you are just going to slip stitch all the way across the side of that bag, And you could do this on purpose with a different color too if you wanted. Again, try to make sure your slip stitches are relatively the same size as the stitches you're working into. And the fact that this is a slip stitch for the last round instead of a single crochet will also help to keep the top of the bag a little bit more stable. So I'm just going to slip stitch all the way around until I get to my handle, which is marked here. So I'm almost there. Have a good shift. And this is where it's going to start my 9 stitches up the side. I'm not really going to worry about putting the, well, I am, because I'm going to go back over it with my pink, but I'm doing this just to show you. So again, you get like a flat edge on top that looks like a finished edge. You get what looks like a finished edge in the front, and then the back stitching just kind of falls into there. I am going to put that in there because when I take it out to do my pink, that could be interesting. I'm just going to, I'll know where I'm at. So I'm going to just keep slip stitching up the side here. You can leave that door open. Thank you. I'm going to keep slip stitching up the side until I get to my anchor stitch. Now this is where it's going to get a little bit different. So I know this is my anchor stitch, my next stitch, so I'm just going to take it out to show you so I can work through it. So for the next stitch, for the anchor stitch, I'm actually going to roll it this way. So pinch it inwards. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to pinch it inwards like this. Okay? And I'm going to put, so you can see exactly where I'm putting it, I'm going to put it into that first slip stitch that was our anchor stitch. And then I'm going to bring it around, and this is where we put our first anchor stitch. You put your first anchor stitch in that first stitch up here in the top. So you put your first anchoring slip stitch into the last stitch here on the top. Try to get it to focus. Come on. The last stitch here on the top. So you're actually going to take your hook and come back out in that same stitch. Like that. Okay, so this is what you're looking at. Hold on, I'm all twisted. So this is the way you've done your work. So you've worked all the way up to that anchor stitch, and then you insert your hook like that, and you're going to pull all those anchor stitches together with one stitch. So it's almost going to look like it's curled on the back. And then you can do one of two things. You can just take the bottom part where you slip stitched. So this would be the top part where you've been slip stitching. You can either curl this whole thing around, and it's a little bit tricky. It's a little bit tricky because you would go into the next stitch from the top, the next slip stitch from the top, and then you would turn it and you would pick up the next stitch from the bottom. You might actually, if you do it this way, you might want to use a smaller hook as well. You would pick up the next stitch from the bottom to kind of curl the whole handle around, and then pull your slip stitch through that way, and it kind of curls the whole handle around. Or a much easier way to do that is from your anchor stitch where you just did it. You can kind of, I don't know how well you can see this, but it kind of gives you a triangle, right? You've been working this way through the top loops. You've been working this way through the top loops to do your slip stitches across. So good morning. So you've been working this way to do your slip stitches across in this top stitch. Instead of doing that, you're going to flip it over and you're going to work through, it kind of almost looks like a triangle. If you roll this piece, you've got a flat piece here, and then this kind of points up like a triangle. Like it gets bigger. It's hard unless I had a cross section for you to see. But either way, we are not going to work on the pretty side of the stitches. We are going to continue, since we pulled that anchor stitch together on the back, and we're going to work up the back side of the, I know I'm bouncing around, the back side, I'll show you here in a second. Of the stitches. So if you're looking at the back side of the stitches, honestly, you can just slip stitch it, not the flat side. The flat side is like the pretty side. You're going to work from the back side, and you're going to take from the back side, and you can kind of pull these together. So you can go through two loops like you did at first. You can do it through the first loop and the second loop. Like I said, it's a little bit tight. The first loop and the second loop. So that's the pretty side. So you went through that loop, and then you went through that loop. And then you can pull that together. So again, from like not looking at the pretty side, you're going to go through that loop, and then the very ridge edge loop, and then you can pull that together. And then again, you go through the very outer one, and then the next top ridge loop there, and just pull them together. Again, so I'm holding the flat side on my thumb. So if I'm holding the flat side on my thumb, I'm going through that loop there. Did I catch all this? I'm going through that loop there. See, I'm holding it on my thumb. And then I'm going through the next top loop on the stitch. And that's what I'm pulling it through. And it kind of makes it a little bit rounder. So when you're looking at it, it gives you like a finished edge on the outside. And again, this will be pink. And a flatter edge on the inside from doing all your stitches there. And because you pulled that close there on the inside for your anchor stitch, it will look like it's kind of curled there. But that's okay, it's still going to anchor that. So that is how you're going to work that last edge of that. And then it's going to give you that like finished look at the top. And when you do it with, you got it? Oh, good. I hope so. Because sometimes like I do things and I think to myself, how am I supposed to explain this to somebody? It's like so bizarre how I do it. How am I going to explain this? But so you see, when you hold the bag up, it's going to pull these stitches together from the top and the side. And it's kind of going to look like that on the inside. And this one's the same way. Although it has relaxed quite a bit. Oh, this one I did the opposite way. So it looks like the loops on the outside where I pulled my anchor stitches together. But it doesn't really matter. So I did both of them that way. I pulled them together so the loop was on the outside of the bag instead of the inside of the bag. As long as you get through that anchor stitch a second time and get through that whole thing around there, it doesn't matter which way you pull it, and it doesn't actually matter which way you do your slip stitches all the way up. As long as you get in there good and it's all around the whole side there, you're going to get a nice edge on it. No matter how you finish, no matter how you end up doing that slip stitch across the handle. As long as when you do the first slip stitch in the handle, that anchor stitch, you go through that whole set of anchor stitches to pull them together again. Did that help? Does anybody have any questions? Or did I seem like a total lunatic for the last like 15 minutes? Anyone? Well, I'm going to take that as if everybody understood. So again, as long as you do your slip stitch around your edge, you're good, thanks. Okay. And as long as you pull all those anchor stitches together, when you do that last anchor stitch for that edge, it doesn't really matter how you do the last row slip stitches up there. You can play with it and do it however you want, whether you want to do it on the flat side again, whether you want to just do it on the back side again. You can do that set all the way up the same way. And then just when you come down to the bottom, whichever way you pulled your handle, whichever way you pinched your handle in to do the slip stitch, that anchor stitch, just make sure you pull the other side in the same way to do the anchor stitch on the other side so that it's even. Oh, good, Tammy. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Patty. I appreciate it. All right, so that's how we finish that bag. And tomorrow when I come back, we'll make a little change pouch, which is just super simple. Just starts with some single crochets. Work around it from there. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. So I'll finish my bag tonight, and I should have enough left to make a simple change pouch out of the same color. And I will probably see you guys later on this evening while I'm sitting here. Oh, you're welcome so much, Cindy. I will probably jump back on later while I'm trying to finish up my squares that I'm still working on. And if anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to message me. I can see if I can walk you through it. I don't mind at all. And I will see you guys all later. Thank you very much. I hope you guys have a great day as well. I hope you guys get to enjoy some of the sunshine. I hope there's at least some sunshine where you are. There is here today, which is I'm grateful for because it's usually gloomy. So you are welcome, and thank you and enjoy your day.